All right. Mic check. I'm good. So I'm Ceron. Ceron. CWB Association Welding podcast. Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest. Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Ceron, and all the times, I'm looking everywhere to find the best guests I can find. Well, we have some very special episodes coming up this month for Black History Month, and today I have a wonderful guest coming into us from Calgary, Alberta, Ruth Falokun. Ruth, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm confused by the weather here in Saskatchewan. 2 weeks ago, we were minus 40, and today it's raining and plus 8. So I have no idea what's happening.
I can say the same for Calgary.
Yeah, well, usually we
we've
get
had a
your
couple-
weather. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's been the same for the past couple of weeks. So yeah.
All right. So what is your job title, Ruth? Tell us what you do.
So I'm currently a QA/QC inspector, and pretty much that's what I do. I do shop inspections, turnarounds, and the like. So yeah, that's my title. That's what I do presently. I'm a welding inspector.
Cool. And do you work for an inspection company, or are you alone, like as a self-proprietor or business?
So pretty much now I'm alone. I work alone as a contractor for a company where I literally go for turnarounds and the likes of it. So yeah.
And do you like working the shutdown work? Do you like chasing the work around?
Looks like it. Yeah. If I wanted to compare it with the shop, yeah, I'd say it's got its ups and downs, but definitely I take that over shop for sure.
Really? A lot of people like to shop better, cleaner, home at the same time every day.
Yes, I think actually both of them do have like their pros and cons, right? So pretty much to be able to spend time with family and the likes of it, that's why I would definitely prefer to be local. However, we know more pay and more experience, more exposure to so many things you don't do in the shop. Like there's really most times for me, I think that there's no repetition of stuff going to turnarounds. I have like for every time I've gone for turnarounds, I have different experiences with projects so far. So yeah, that's why I like it.
Definitely more exciting on the road until you get tired of the road life. And some people never do. Some people love it forever, right?
I don't see myself loving it forever.
But it is a tough gig.
Loving it.
Yeah, I didn't love it forever. I didn't. I did road work up until my mid-30s, and then I was like, "That's enough of that." Yeah.
Yeah. There's always like a time, we draw the line, like it's enough. So yeah.
So let's start at the beginning here. All right. So now we know what you do, but let's start at the very beginning, Ruth. Where were you born? And let's start with the story of Ruth as a little baby.
So I was born in Nigeria. I've got 3 siblings, 2 older sisters and a brother. And I grew up in Nigeria. I was schooling in Nigeria. I actually had my bachelor's degree in Nigeria before relocating to Canada in 2014. And that has been my journey, like since 2014, since I got to Canada. I went back to school a couple of times, started my own family. And yeah, here I am today.
Okay, so you skipped over a lot of information there. So let's go back. Where in Nigeria were you born? It's a big country, one of the bigger ones in Africa. So where in Nigeria were you born?
Correct. So I was born in Lagos State. I'm sure you've heard. Yeah,
Yes.
Lagos is a very popular city in Nigeria. I was born in Lagos State, and my father is originally from somewhere we call Kwara State, and my mom was actually from Lagos State. So I was born there. That's the city. That's where life happens, and that's why I'm in Calgary also, because I'm used to like the lifestyle. So yeah.
So Lagos is a very big city. So I've worked in West Africa a few times, and I've been to Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana. I've been all around the places. I worked in a couple training programs in Ghana, around the Volta region. And so I know the area very well, but I've never been to Nigeria specifically. And
Oh, wow.
it's sometimes when I was in West Africa, people would say, oh, the food is same here that you get, let's go like, fufu in Ghana. Like I love fufu. It's a type of like cassava root cooked. And they're like, that's only a Ghanese food. But then I ran into someone from Nigeria and they said Nigeria has fufu, but I don't think Nigeria, do they? They got their own, like, I don't know, like.
Oh, yes. We have our own fufu, and it's, you don't want to be on the social media saying that, because I promise you we have like the clash between Nigeria and Ghana.
That's right. So
And
you got to be careful. It's like,
specifically, yeah. Yeah, I would, boast of it, like we have the best food, we have the best jollof.
yeah,
I'm sure you've heard
jollof.
about
Oh yeah, I
jollof.
love jollof. That
Yes.
rice is the, and
Yeah, so I haven't tried Ghanaian fufu, but yes, we definitely have our own fufu. And like you said, it's probably the same way we prepare it, but
oh, I'm
you
sure it's
know,
different though. Every region,
uh,
even inside of Ghana, different regions have different level of spice, have different level of consistency. And like, I mean, here in Canada, you try to get fufu and you just get like the dried cassava powder. It's not the same, folks.
no, it's not the
It's
same.
not.
That's actually not fufu.
That's
No,
not
that's
fufu.
definitely not the right fufu. No, that's like all the fufu I see on social media. I'm like, no, you have to go to like Nigeria to get the real
Where they
fufu.
pound
Everyone
the
goes
root,
like,
they pound the
there
root, and
we
it
go.
makes it the right
Yeah,
consistency, so it
exactly.
sticks together, and then you make the little bowl for the soup and the
There
fish.
we go. And another feel to it is, when you kind of scoop it, like you have it draw, before you
Like
like
elasticy,
exactly something like that. So
Oh yeah,
it's yeah,
I'm getting
fufu
hungry
is
now.
not the same.
And
I know I'm missing them right now
yeah,
having this conversation also.
is there? And this is kind of off the track now already. I'm doing it, but
Mhm.
is there Nigerian restaurants in Calgary that you can go get like a traditional food?
Yes, we do have like a couple. I do visit a couple of
Mm-hmm.
them. However, like we had the conversation, we
It's not
still
the
don't have the
same.
fufu here. Yeah, it's definitely not the same. And I still make like the homemade food also for myself, just to
Mm-hmm.
keep having that feel. But yes, we have a couple, like we have quite a few African restaurants here in
Mm-hmm.
Calgary. A lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just catching on here in Regina. We have there's a lady from Takoradi that actually I worked just down the street from her, and then I met her here in Canada, and like I worked down the street from her in Takoradi, and so she cooks food now. She's opening up at a restaurant called Aquaba Foods here in Regina, and it's good. It's good. But she said she was gonna do fufu for me. She said she got the root, but it was good. Okay, so it was good, but not. It's not the same as being like on the ground there, and plus it's not plus 30 out and
Oh yeah.
humid. It's a whole different vibe,
Hmm.
being in West Africa. 'Cause West Africa is beautiful. People always think of Africa as like dry and poor, but West Africa has lots of money. It's corrupt. That's a different story. That's a
Yeah.
different story we talk about. But
Yeah.
there's lots of resources and there's lots of stuff going on. Like I've heard Lagos is an amazing city. I heard it's a really cool place. I've been to across 4 million people. It's no joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I say to a lot of people, if I just wanted to describe Nigeria specifically to them, I'm like, we pay off, like we buy our houses in cash. Everything we do is in cash. Like we don't have opportunities for mortgages and all
Mm-hmm.
the like. So pretty much that gives you a feel of how rich the country or the continent is as a
Mm-hmm.
whole. And some people are still kind of should I say
Shocked.
they need more training
Mm-hmm.
on thinking Africa is a country. No, it's not a country.
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria is just one of a few, like in the whole continent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's people just need to, and we have curious people now trying to learn a lot about
Yeah.
Africans. I have a couple of friends, who tried the food also. And, it's been a journey so far. And I think I like the transition and we're getting into in this day and age. Yeah.
Well, that was something that made me so passionate about Africa in general. And like, I'm an immigrant. I'm from South America. I came to Canada when I was a kid with my family. So I already have like the immigrant story. We were refugees, which is a very impactful story when people want to hear about my journey. Most of the Western African people that have come in the last, I'd say, 20 years have come for economic reasons. It's not, there hasn't been any outright wars, although there's always some fighting, but there hasn't been any outright wars. Not like the east of Africa, which you have
Mhm.
Eritrea, Somalia, Ethiopia. They have like refugee camps. They have all sorts of other issues going on there. So most of the people that you meet from West Africa are usually educated, usually went to school, usually parents had decent jobs. There were, and they came to Canada searching for a new life. You know what I mean? Especially because access to West Africa immigration wise is a little bit easier because it's English speaking countries, right? So there is a whole angle there. So now knowing that, coming back to your story, as a young girl growing up in Nigeria, two older sisters and a brother, what was your dream? What did you want to do when you grew up? I don't think you wanted to be a weld inspector because, and if that's not even a girl or boy question. I don't go into any grade 8 school and say, what do you want to do when you grow up? And people put their hands up and say weld inspector. It doesn't exist, So what was your path? What did you want to be?
So technically, you're right. I never grew up thinking I was going to be a welding inspector. It wasn't even something I knew about when I was growing up, pretty much. However, just like you said, back home in Nigeria, we have, should I say, like in Africa generally, we have discrimination against females, pretty much going into like the male-dominated industry. And I remember growing up vividly well. Like I said, I have two older sisters. Like their route was pretty much into like nursing and mass communication. However, I did want to push myself because I felt like, people we have 3 sisters. For some reason, I think my mom would have continued having kids if she never had like my younger brother. So it's just, it's just like a thing in Africa whereby, you just want to keep having somebody, especially a male figure, to be able to like dominate and, like just keep the family name. And, that pushed me because I was just like, I was going to do all of these things these guys, do. And for the fact I was the third girl, like I remember my mom telling me when they had me, my father literally thought I was going to be a boy. And he gave up and it was just like, okay, I'm just going to give this girl my name. And he gave me his name, literally. And I took that as something really sacred that, he gave up like it was never going to have a guy, like it wasn't going to have a boy. And I worked with that and told myself I was going to be an engineer. So I went to school. Literally, when I was a little kid, my parents said I was going to be an electrical engineer because I was like changing sockets at home, like, everything, fan, bulbs and all those stuff. So they kind of spoke into me like, oh, I think you're going to be an electrical engineer. But, as life would have it, when I wanted to go into school, I didn't get the admission into electrical engineering. However, I got civil engineering. And then I schooled in University of Ilorin. And that's where, I kept pushing myself. And it was a class of like 79 people in total. And we had just 9 girls in the class. And that even pushed me more. Like, the guys we just felt, and, it was just something exciting. Like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why girls are not coming into this field. And I just became even more curious as to, I'll just keep doing this stuff. I don't know how hard it is. I'll just keep pushing myself to get this thing done. And that was how I knew from the onset I was going to be an engineer, pretty much. Like when I was a kid, everyone in the family knew that. And I've been pushing myself. And then when I got to Canada, I did go back to school. I did a project management. And at a point, I was like, this doesn't really look like it's for me.
Kind of boring.
Like, like it had a lot of stories in it. I wasn't used to like reading a lot of stories and stuff. And I had a friend then who did welding. However, no, I skipped something. When I was in school in Nigeria, we had like this thing we call internship, like SWEP. And I remember one of my instructors making me strike an axe. And I was like, it was just striking an axe. I was like, oh, what's the mechanism behind this thing? How did this, occur? I do see like the uneducated peeps back home tend to be like the welders. And for that reason, it's not something I resonated with because I felt like, you don't have to go to school to, do things like that. So when I did that hack, I was like, okay, this is welding. And then soldering, they taught us a little bit of soldering and I got curious about it. When I got to Canada, I got the opportunity also to talk to like friends of mine who were in the welding industry. And they told me about the money, they were
Mm-hmm.
earning, and then the excitement there and how fun it is, to just keep learning and getting so many experiences. However, when I got here and wanted to apply for the study, I also doubted myself because, I still had the mindset like, I don't think I'm going to have a lot of opportunities here as a female and, knowing
Yeah.
my skin color and stuff like that. So I applied into SAIT and I was just pushing myself and told myself, okay, I'm going to apply for 2 courses. I hope they give me the one that is really, female dominated than giving me the male dominated field. And by doing that, it makes me, block the fact I'm going to do welding engineering in school.
Mm-hmm.
But no, SAIT gave me both admissions and made it tough on me. I did apply for environmental engineering and the welding engineering, and I got both. And I was like, okay, it means I really have to push with the welding engineering, right?
Yeah.
And I did it for the first week. I almost gave up also because, like I said, I had a family. I actually had like a 5-month-old kid at that
Mm-hmm.
point in time. And my instructors, I particularly have an instructor who kept pushing. I was like, Ruth, you did civil engineering. I'm sure you can handle this and blah, blah, blah. And, I took it upon myself. And that was like the first mentor I ever had in this
Mm-hmm.
industry. And, the push and the encouragement I got from this instructor of mine just kept me going. And I just kept scaling and scaling through till, where I'm at right now. So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, when you decided to come to Canada in, I think you said around 2014, did you come alone or did you come with other family members, or was there already family members here, or how? Usually it's a kind of an order.
Yes, correct. So my husband was already here. He was schooling in Newfoundland and Labrador, and he was schooling and applied, and all of it came in play when I got my PR also and relocated with him as a spouse. And not long after that, because he was always coming back home, to visit and the likes of it. Not long
Mm-hmm.
after that, I had my first child, and I had to take a little bit of break,
Mm-hmm.
from pursuing anything. And that was when I did like the project management and realized it wasn't for me. And yeah, I had my second child, and the life was, the inspiration came for me to apply for those 2 courses. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew if I did take a little bit of time, I might, not do anything. And that was why she was really sick, 5 months old when I went back to school. Was like a big deal because
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that before, having a baby, having to deal with baby, go to school and, family and the likes of it. And I still had a toddler to deal with.
And that's a
But,
lot different culture than back home, because
oh
back
yeah,
home you stay home with the baby till the baby's pretty much like almost 2 years old. Like, I mean, it's kind
correct.
of the normal way to do it. Even with the
Yeah.
family, like the mom and the grandparents to help out, it's still expected, which here in Canada, not so much. Not so
Oh
much.
yeah, not so much. Yeah, definitely. Even back home, we get to like, pay for maids and the likes of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if I choose to go back to work at 3 months, I have the provision to, get a maid to stay
Mm-hmm.
with the kid. But as you said in Canada, that's you have to be like a celebrity to be able to afford that, right? So yeah, that was why I took my time to be. And then my husband was like the support system. He was, trying to always push me. Like he's also an engineer. He currently works as a pipeline engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one person I feel like is my greatest fan who tries to like get me out of my comfort zone to just keep pushing myself on things like this. So yeah, I think kudos to him for that.
So, what did your mom and dad think about, first of all, you getting into engineering? Were they supportive of the little baby daughter getting into engineering? And then when you decided to leave home and come to Canada, you were going to continue with that path, even with a baby and another baby on the way. Where were your parents in all this?
So my parents were very learned, like they were very educated.
Mm-hmm.
So they literally just they never pushed us on our career path. They only encouraged us pretty much. So from the onset, when I was like fixing stuff at home and just taking wires and stuff, and they just spoke it into me like, oh, I think this girl is gonna be an engineer. My dad never wanted to shield us from things like risk. He
Mm-hmm.
was such a go-getter, like, oh, if this is what you want to do, go for it. My brother wanted to be a pilot. And it was like, yeah, go for it. And I was scared. I was like, oh, you want to be a pilot? Are you sure you're not going to crash? And my mom was like, shush, you know, no, so
Don't
it's
say
like
that.
that. Exactly. She was like, shush, I was so leader then. And when he was like, oh, I'm going to be a pilot, I'm like, okay, I don't know about that if you're going to be a pilot. But, I just know my parents as people who just push, they don't really care like
Mm-hmm.
what you say. They just try to motivate you. If that's what you want to do, you have the whole support
Well,
from them to
you're
do what you want
very
to do.
lucky to have parents that supportive like that because, in my experience in Western Africa, women are not pushed towards any type of STEM education, whether it's engineering or the maths or the sciences or the
Mhm.
trades. And to be fair, the trades in many countries around the world are not like they are in Canada. Even the
Correct.
US and Mexico, even the other richer countries are not really set up like we are in terms of how we support our trades. I mean, like you said, a welder in Canada, it's a serious business. And, you could have a very successful life as a welder.
Mhm.
I remember the first class of welders I taught in Ghana. My first time I was in Kikum, which is a tiny little town right on the southern coast, and there was people there that told me they had years of welding experience, but then I gave them their welding hoods and they had never seen a welding hood. They had been welding for years on the side of the road with a 12-volt battery and a
Yeah,
couple electrodes and no welding helmet, staring at the light.
exactly.
And that was considered an experienced
Mhm.
tradesperson. You know what I mean? And unless you worked for a mine or like a big corporate company, you would basically have no education or training. Now, if you could get in with the big company, usually those companies are owned from England or Germany or Canada.
Mhm.
So then they will give you some training, but still, it's minimal.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I agree with you for sure. Because, like I said, growing up, I never saw welding as a career, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
because it was all on the side of the road
Yeah.
with people not using helmet, like you said, no shield, nothing about. So, yeah, you're definitely right with that.
I know it's changing now, though. There's a lot of commissions happening in all over. I would say all over the continent of Africa. Actually, there's lots of movement towards trying to bring the trades up. Not because the people there can't do it, but because it's good for the economy. It's good for people to make money. That roadside welder should have a little bit of education and do it properly, and then he will have a better life. And then
Yeah.
all those things start to happen.
Yeah.
All right. So you came to Canada. Why didn't you stay in Newfoundland with your husband? What was the choice to come to Calgary?
So my husband was in Newfoundland for his master's degree. It
Hmm.
was a great place. I did like Newfoundland. I think
It
I
is
spent
beautiful.
literally, oh yeah, it is really beautiful, and they've got lots of nice people there also.
Hmm.
So, yeah, my husband was there schooling, and I was there with him while he was working for a company there, and then he got a better offer in Calgary, and we just had to relocate for
And there's always
greener
a lot of
pastures.
work too for welding related work in the West,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right, so you get to Calgary and you decide to take the welding engineering program through what's it called, the wet program through SAIT, and that's for a technologist, engineering technologist, which is I believe a 1 year course, right?
No, two.
Two
It's a
years.
2 year
Okay,
course.
2 year course. So you finished this 2 year course. Was there fears that you might not be able to find work, or that you would have struggle? First of all, being a female, which is still in this country lower ratio. It's not great. I would say maybe better than other places, but not by a lot. And then second of all, being a person of color, sometimes there's a thought that people of color are not going to be as good in these industries because they don't come with the same backgrounds that many of the people here have.
Yeah, that's a very good question because pretty much I did have the fear when I was
Mm-hmm.
going into it. And I think that's why I was more inclined into, was I going to go in the female dominated industry than going into the male dominated? And, that was like my first gig in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So I never knew how the system worked and everything. And like I said, and during the schooling, my mentor, pretty much my instructor, I think it was kind of the one who eased my fears, from like the first week, I almost literally gave up in school, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
because I spoke to him and it was like, just the support system I got from him. I was like, okay, I think I should be able to get this in the industry also.
Yeah.
And, with my classmates and everything and, my friends around too, I did continue pushing. But then when COVID hit, because I did graduate towards the COVID period, I was like, okay, I've got so many odds against me. Like the COVID is there. I've got the break, having a family, as you said, a woman and
Mm-hmm.
a woman of color. So like, I just listing all of the disadvantages, I was ever going to encounter in this industry. But I did connect with an employer, like an employer during the summer time, pretty much
Mm-hmm.
when I was still in school. And, I still maintained the communication and everything. And, outside COVID, when COVID had its back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
I got the opportunity to start with this company because I maintained a very good relationship with the manager. So that was another, stepping stone for me. I was like, okay, if this guy kept to his word, it was gonna get me into the industry when things were okay. I just feeling that little relief in me, like, okay, it's not so bad after
And
all.
some
Yes, there
people are
might be
willing to help.
exactly. People are definitely willing to help. And, during my journey there, I had both, good and bad experiences, with people telling me to my face, like, oh, you're so lucky because being a Black lady and being a woman and being hired, like they made it sound like a favor, for me
Mm.
getting the position. And, I'm just that kind of person. I'm always having like the positive energy view, like, give me a vibe that doesn't fit well with me, I just take that as something positive and just, keep fighting for it so that you can swallow your words back, right? So yeah, so I definitely did have the fear. I had a lot of fear and I still have it because, sometimes when I'm doing stuff, I'm like, oh, the odds, having a family, having
Mm-hmm.
to give excuses at work just because I need to do this for my kids or I need to go pick up, I still have very young kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it's a challenge, but I've come to realize I've had lots of people who's helped me along the way, and there's no barrier that cannot be broken. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
and there's no difference between what you're doing than what all the previous generations did. Because Canada at the end of the day is a country built of immigrants, only
correct,
immigrants, right? Because
correct.
the indigenous population is only 12 to 14% roughly. So the rest of
Mhm.
this country is not from here.
Yeah,
So everyone really has the same story if they just think about it. That they're the balance between a career and a family is never easy.
it's not.
That's not going to be easy for anybody. And then, like you said, it's sometimes you get caught up in kind of making the list of why things can go wrong. But even if it doesn't help you, sometimes you just do it. Just last week, I had a very, very bad racist encounter here in Regina at a doctor's office. I had very rude things said to me by someone, and I told my wife, and my wife, who's Métis, half white, she was very upset, and then she's like, "Why are you not more upset?" And I said, well, because I choose my battles. Like I need to worry about what helps me and what makes me move forward. And me getting into an argument with somebody because they're racist isn't going to help me. I'm not going to come out of that thinking like I'm the hero and I won. Like, I mean, it's like, I feel more sorry for these people. Like, what
Mhm.
is wrong in your mind that you think these thoughts? You must have a
Yeah,
very unhappy life because you must think
definitely.
these terrible things all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
have you
yeah.
had any moments since you've come to Canada? And I'm sure, like, I mean, I kind of know the answer, but I'm going to ask it, where you felt like maybe I made a mistake, or maybe I should be back home with my family in Nigeria, where my path might have been a little bit easier. Have you had those moments where you double guessed what you've done?
Yes, I double guess almost every time. Like it's just like we both had the discussion. It's tough in Canada, not having your family around.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much you're having to do all of this thing. And for me, I hate to look incompetent in my workplace, especially a male-dominated industry. I love to give my best, and knowing for a fact, me having a family is like a barrier to
Mm.
get to the level I want to get to in life. I beat myself a lot of times, and I'm like, if I'm back home, everyone understands. I'm able to like afford, everything just to make life easy for me while I pursue my career also, right? So yes, I've had a lot of even before I got the job, I got like my first job in the
Mm-hmm.
industry. I felt, like with people discriminating against me, like I did take a lot of my resumes to people's,
Mm-hmm.
to shops in Calgary. And I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go. Maybe if they see the color of my skin, maybe that's why they don't want to call me back. Everything is just an assumption because
Yeah.
if anything happens, you just put that as as an excuse to be like,
Yeah.
okay,
An
maybe
easy
I'm not good
scapegoat.
enough.
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe it's the color of my skin. I've also thought of, okay, I'm just going to put my first name on my resume and never put my last name,
Mm.
just to create a scenario for people to be like, okay, this is a mystery. Who's this person? Let's interview this person, just to get myself out there. So, yes, I've had a couple of times, even few months ago and the likes of it, just to be like, did I make a mistake coming to Canada?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to go back. I don't see, I haven't achieved what I want to achieve yet, but that's not on the people, to be honest. It has nothing to do with the people because I've had the opportunities, but
Yeah.
like I said, to
It's
be able to
you.
balance
Yeah.
both family and my kind of job, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's really tough. And also, I lost my mom along the line when I was also going to school. When I had my 5 months old child, that was like the big deal for
Like
me then.
all at the
I
same
was going
time.
to,
Yeah.
exactly, everything happened all at the same time. And I'm like, okay, I think this is it. This is like a sign for me to like quit and just come back home. But the perseverance and everything and the encouragement I keep getting from people around me, from, my bosses and my spouse, especially, and my kids, I just want to give them the best life. That's why I feel, Canada is still the best bet for me. Because, like I said, back home, we're not given these opportunities. I have a couple of friends who finished as engineers and, they're like entrepreneurs now. They
Mm-hmm.
just pretty much run businesses. They don't practice the engineering because they don't have this equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm thankful for that, to be here, to have the opportunity to be seen as an equal and given this opportunity to work in this industry with my fellow mates. So, yeah.
No, I love that. And you brought up a couple very interesting items that a lot of people don't think about for immigrants when Canadians look at immigrants. Number one is our names. Our names in most countries, and I would say pretty much all countries, they're very select names. Like our names are sacred to us. They're given to us by our parents, and there's usually a reason. So Latinos, we carry four names. All Latinos carry four names, maybe more, but four is the minimum because you get a first name, which is usually from the father, then the second name is usually from the mother, and then you have a first last name, which is the father, and a second last name, which is the mother. So that's just our culture. When we came to Canada, we weren't allowed to have four names in the 70s. It was like, that's not allowed. So we had to change our names and we are like, find a shorter version of our names. So, the names that we had been called our whole lives were not our names anymore. And then you also worry, and I've seen this more with non-Latinos, because Latinos we're fairly integrated with the population here in North America, but especially with a lot of the new immigrants from the East Indies, like the Indian, Pakistani, region,
Mhm.
they get very much judged on their last names before anyone even looks at them. They say, "Oh, that's a name. He must be from so and so." I've seen that happen, and I've been like, "Oh my god!" So for myself, my full Spanish name is Sebastián Maximiliano Ceron Candia. People here don't know how to say that, right? So they're gonna Max.
Mhm.
Max is good. That
Exactly.
works. And
Yeah.
and I just was able to get my passport with my full name about 8 years ago. When I was able to, because they changed the laws. Now you can have any name you want when you come now. So I was able to get my whole name back put on my passport, which I was happy to have my real name back.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and
Yeah.
for you, you have like your dad's name, so it's like, well, maybe they'll think I'm a man, right?
Actually, it's more of a unisex name,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
because yeah, the names we have back home, like you said, it's always sacred to us, and
Hmm.
it definitely has its meaning, right? So, but yeah, I've always had my name. I never used my dad's name as much. I
Hmm.
wish I did, because there was a reason to give that to me, but I wasn't thinking then. I was just like, like I said, they were carefree, like everything you wanted to do,
Hmm.
just do it. But I wish, I understood the impact of that name, because, like I said, he's late also.
Hmm.
And I wish, I'm carrying that name for him, because my brother never got the name. I
Yeah.
got his name. So yeah, I wish I did better with that though.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break now for our sponsors and advertisers. And when we get back from the break, I want to discuss what it is that you do on the daily, like with your job, what you specialize in, and kind of what your work is, and I guess what the future looks like for Ruth. So we'll be back here right away on the CWB Association podcast. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be right here.
The CWB Association is new and improved and focused on you. We offer a free membership with lots of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. We are committed to educating, informing, and connecting our workforce. Gain access to your free digital publication of the Weld magazine, free online training, conferences, and lots of giveaways. Reach out to your local CWB Association chapter today to connect with other welding professionals and share welding as a trade in your community. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Join today and learn more at cwbassociation.org.
And we are back here on the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron. Thanks for tuning in for this special Black History Month episode that we are having here with Ruth. She's calling in from Calgary and telling us about her travels from Nigeria over to Newfoundland, over to Calgary, now where she's staking out her ground as a weld inspector and QA specialist. So, Ruth, you finished your wet program, you're getting your job, you're working, you are doing the Canadian dream. You're trying to just get out there and make as much money as you can with, and hopefully not sending too much home, because that always gets us immigrants. We're so bad for that. I always tell everybody, don't do that. Worry about yourself first, because we always do that. We can't help
Yeah,
it. But
we can.
but
Yeah.
well, and I'm going to jump off track because that brings up something that I always find so interesting. Our families back home always think that we're so rich.
Yeah,
And it's
I
like,
agree.
no, you don't know how much bread costs here. One loaf of bread here is like two meals back home. Like, so it's like they think we make so much money, but at the end of the day, we do have a lot of privilege, living here. And the systems are much different, like even when I have family come visit, the first thing they see when they get off the airplane is it's so clean here, compared to other countries where it's just the infrastructure is not there, right? So,
Mhm.
for yourself now, tell us about your job, what it is you do as a weld inspector, and what your specialties are. What is it that when someone needs Ruth, they're reaching out for Ruth?
So pretty much, like I said, I go for turnarounds, and nothing is always the same when I go for turnarounds. And the last shutdown I had was more of like an heat exchanger tubes, like we're changing pretty much X bends and the likes of it. I've never done that. I've never worked with like chrome tubes
Mm-hmm.
before, and it was like a new thing. Like even some of the people I work with, they've been in this industry for like maybe 20 years. And it was like the first time they're encountering, a lot of things that, we encountered there. So I don't specifically do what's it called? Like a specific thing. I go for like piping. It could be S bends, like I said, it could be heat exchangers, it could be earthing. Like I worked on a lot of things I would never have been exposed to in the shop. But when I was in the shop, I did more of like barges and pipings,
Mm-hmm.
tubings, and the likes of it, like compressor skids and the likes of it. So I think I've gotten a whole lot more broad experience out there in the field, like going to see different project. Pretty much, I've done like a couple of piping also in the field, but it's always specifically like the last one, like I said, I did was more of the heat exchanges and like the expense. I worked on hearsing, vents and the likes of it. So yeah.
And are you a level 2 inspector, level 1 inspector? What certifications do you have within the inspection game?
So I'm currently level 2. I actually just obtained that last year.
Good.
I got my level 2 last year, and I have the B31.3 endorsement, and the 178.2. I have my W59 and 47.1, and I'm hoping to like get like some other endorsement in there, just like the APIs and Z662 and the likes of it, just to be able to, explore more of the pressure vessels and all those stuff for sure.
I was going to ask you about Z662 and API 650 because, in Alberta, there's a lot of that, right? Because that's, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Z662 is for piping coming up from underground. And then API 650 is tanks over 6 feet, low pressure tanks. So, there's a lot of that in Alberta. Right. There's a lot of that. And as a welder, that stuff's actually pretty easy to do. So it's usually a fairly good return, like in terms of, there's usually not a lot of discontinuities or issues with that stuff, but it gets checked. It all gets checked.
Yeah.
Do you work with mag particle? Do you work with X-ray? Are you only non-destructive, or do you are also involved with destructive testing? What is it that you usually do on site?
So pretty much it's all NDE. I haven't done anything destructive yet. It's all NDE and, like you said, mag particle, X-ray, LPI, and the likes of it. I've done every of those things on the projects within the field, and that's even when I was in the shop. Also, I did a lot of the NDEs. I don't do that specifically, but the documentation, the inspection, and everything that entails from my hand is what I do. So I have experiences in all of the NDE examinations for sure.
I remember when I was younger, I used to love the smell of the penetrant of LPI. And now I've been told that it's extremely bad for you. And I remember being young and we'd play with it and like spray it on things and it would see, like, I mean, we were so careless in the 90s with safety. It's unbelievable that any of us are still alive. Maybe there's not a lot of us, but I remember being like, oh, this stuff smells. I didn't like the smell of the developer though. The developer makes you choke, but the red fluid I always thought was cool. And then now I know that it's apparently poison basically, and we're not supposed to breathe it in. So I hope you're very safe with that.
Oh yeah. I take safety very seriously, especially in the field. You have to. It's important, you go in one place and you return in one place to your family, right? So I take all of those seriously, especially when we have like RTs, and RTs especially. I'm super cautious of that too, because the barricades and the stuff, I just don't want to go close to it. So
no, and things happen fast too. In your experience now, as you've worked in the industry for a few years now, if you look back and want to make a comparison, let's compare what you know of the trades in Nigeria versus what you do in your job now, because there's oil and gas in Nigeria, there's mining in Nigeria, these same industries exist. What would you say is the biggest contrast between what you know of the trades and industry in Nigeria versus what you see here in Canada?
To me specifically, I think it's safety. Yeah, we don't take safety seriously back home. Probably for like the very recognized companies, I would assume they do that. We're just talking about welding generally on the side of the road. Like people are exposed to like the axe, they are exposed to like the fumes and everything. It's not curbed, it's not regulated and things like that. So I'd say safety more. I think that's what even gave me the confidence to actually keep going in this industry also, because I just don't want to have like a half limb coming back. And so I think, the contrast for sure is education wise. People back home also, they just go into the trades. You just go train under whoever is welding, and then you're qualified to be a welder pretty much. And that's not supposed to happen. Here we have regulations, we have, things in place,
Standards,
procedures to
codes. Yeah.
follow exactly, like, and people are held accountable for
Mm-hmm.
things that go wrong. Even the government is not held accountable back home. So, like the contrast is definitely clear and obvious. I've always had the mindset that, if I get to the position I want to be able to encourage other girls back home to be able to do things like this, because it's just a passion for me. If I had someone show me this in the past, I think I'll probably just have dived into welding engineering before, routing through civil engineering and the like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun. My favorite, it's like metallurgy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love to know like how things work, how does this corrosion occur, why is this reaction taking place and the likes of it. So yeah, I'd say the contrast is definitely education wise, we're not so learned back home. And the safety standards, procedures, and all those things are not really enforced. So people are just like doing whatever thing they want. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big contrast.
And it's interesting because I know a lot of the attitude in North America in general to the rest of the world is that kind of like we know the most. But it's not necessarily about that. It's not less because the universities and back home in all our countries are fantastic. They're some of the best programs in the world. So it's not a lack of education, but accountability, I think, is the word. You nailed it, because it's about the accountability of you maintaining that standard professionally forever, not just while you're in school until you got that paper and then you can go do whatever you want. It's like,
Yep.
no. We got to keep you up. Like, I know people complain about welders having to test every 2 years. Well, we have a lot less bridges and buildings collapse in Canada than the rest of the world. You know why?
Exactly.
Because we make our welders test every 2 years, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I agree to that.
Now, what kind of future plans are you looking at? Because it seems like Ruth is always thinking about the next adventure. So, I feel like there's already something formulating in that mind about what you would like to perhaps do professionally, or even on the side as a passion project.
Yes, pretty much I want to explore what I can in the field. I know we never can learn everything, but there's always a time limit to how much I can go to the field having a young family. So my future goal and pretty much what I'm planning is to actually do core corrosion or metallurgy. Since it's also in line with this, it's gonna probably help me more with you know, being more local
Mm-hmm.
and with my family, pretty much no matter where I find myself, to be more local, and also to be able to like create something. Just like I said, I wanted to create a platform for women,
Mm-hmm.
not technically just women of color. I just want to be able to like encourage women to like, go into this. When I was in school here at SAIT also, we had like 27 peeps in total, and we had 3 girls. And,
Oh.
it was just like, okay, we just don't have a lot of people doing this. I also worked, I did volunteering also at the SAIT summer camp. And I saw, girls holding back from welding. And I just know my passion is more inclined into people like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
know for sure I'm going to create a platform. I don't know when that's going to be. It could be 50, 20 years. I don't know. But I hope to create a platform where I'm able to like encourage ladies, like the females in the industry, letting them know it's okay, go for it, you can as well do whatever thing these people are doing. There's no limitation to it. And like I said, to pursue stuff in like metallurgy and corrosion integrity and all those
Now,
areas.
these programs that you wish to do, which I love you, because that's basically what I do for a living. I help other people run programs for welding. Um, when you look at how you want to align these, are you looking about your local Calgary community, about bringing people into, supporting young women that are trying to get into the trades in the Calgary area where you are? Or are you also, or at the same time, thinking about supporting women back home? Like, do you have any visions? I always interview people from other parts of the country, the world, I should say, and there's always that kind of rope that connects you back home, where you're thinking, how can I help back home, right? Do you have that urge as well?
Oh yes, definitely. It's something I literally do now. I not in the welding industry, but I kind of and should I say sponsor some kids,
Yeah.
pretty much some girls into elementary school, which we call secondary school back home. And I do a lot of sponsorship with my husband, sending money down to support, for some girls who don't have access to education. So I think I'm just very passionate about, women being go-getters and, just pushing themselves. So yes, I'm definitely working on, encouraging women back home too, for sure.
Good.
That's always a main plan.
How many kids you got?
I've got two,
Two.
and they're both girls.
Good.
So
I was gonna ask. Are they boys or girls? Because you got two girls. My oldest is a girl, and man, she's the strongest woman I know. Like you do not want to get in my daughter's way. She will tell you which side is up in a hurry, and I love that. I remember when she was young, the teachers would say, "Oh, your daughter is a little bit loud and aggressive. Maybe you should talk to her." And I said, "No, she's fine. She can figure it out on her own. She will learn what the limits are, because if it was a young man or a young boy, you would not be saying that. You would just say boys will be boys and they do what they want. No, girls will be girls too. If she wants to yell at somebody, then she feels that she needs to. That's her,
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm trying to raise here. I want to raise, kids that are strong, and I just want them to believe in themselves, just like mommy is, right? I just want to be a role model to them, and that's why I just keep going out for adventures and keep learning. So yes, you're right. There's no limitation. If they want to do things, go for it. Like I'm here, full support.
Awesome. And are you planning on having any more kids? I probably shouldn't ask on the radio. Let's see if your husband's around. Maybe he's listening, but you're done?
No, I'm so done.
Two's a good number. I'm done too. So
I'm so done. Oh yeah, I'm so done. I got the code out. No, I'm done. Yeah. I'm so done.
Now, there's a lot of programs in Alberta where you are able to work, like, I'm not sure if you heard about the CWB Association chapter that is through SAIT and the CWB. You're a CWB inspector. You also went to SAIT. I don't know if you ever got exposed to what is the chapter there or participated in any of the events, but there is an organization that is always trying to run camps and women camps and working with the foundation to create more access. Would you be inclined in volunteering in programs like that?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I've heard of the chapter. They came to SAIT when I was schooling for paper night. I did participate in the paper night, and I won. Yay.
Yeah. How much did you get?
So
No,
$1,000 actually.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, so I am aware of them, but I'm not sure I'm aware of the, the volunteering and people trying to empower. I'm not sure I've been exposed to that.
Well, I'll send you an email after to connect you with your local chapter, because Paul Robanowski is the chair.
Yeah, I know Paul.
Yeah, Paul's a good stuff. He's the chair of the chapter, and Josh Brewster, who's he was the past chair, and he just gave up his chair position because he got a big promotion at SAIT.
Yeah.
So and they're great people. That's who I'm going to be hanging out with next week in Calgary. So you should see about getting a ticket. Maybe you can come out with us, and I can meet you in person. But maybe you can show me where these Nigerian restaurants are, and I can get me some food.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Let's make that a date. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about returning home? Do you still have those thoughts about someday you'll go back to the motherland, or are you trying to convince the rest of the family to come here?
So it's a 50-50. Like I said, I'm happy to be here because my kids are gonna be, exposed to all of the opportunities and everything they want to explore. Also, it's part of my plan to probably retire back home, because at the end of the day, no place like home. I still miss home. I haven't been home since I've been in Canada, actually.
Not even once?
Not even once. Yeah. So it's
That
something I
makes
intend.
it that happens. I didn't go to back home for 17 years
Oh,
because I
wow.
had children, and then I got
Mhm.
busy in my career and my studies, and I just couldn't
Exactly.
go back. And then finally I got to the position where I was able to go back and travel with my kids.
Mhm.
And then I've been back every couple of years ever since then. But there's a window there where it's just going home is just out
Exactly.
of the question, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely like the obstacle for me right now. It's because of the kids and, the activities, the timing and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So I'm hoping, very soon I'll be able to like, go back home. And like I said, my parents are no more, so I don't really have a purpose
Mm-hmm.
to go back home to go visit. But then I still have my siblings there. And pretty much sometimes I feel like, when they come here, they should experience like the life here. Then me having to go back and with like the security and whatnot
Mm-hmm.
going on back home, it's more of, is it the right time to go,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just wait a little while just to be able to do that. But yes, definitely, it's a 50-50. I want to be here for my kids, however, no place like home, so definitely
That's
I'm
so
hoping to
funny.
go back a couple
You
of
have the
times.
exact same plan I have. I have a little house back home that we were purchased with the family, and my plan is to retire. My dream, this is my dream. Like if I
Yeah.
somehow figure it out, is that I'll live in Canada like 8 months of the year, and then I'll be back
Mhm.
home for winter. So as soon as the snow
Oh,
lands, I'm out. I go back home, and then I stay
exactly.
there, and we have a house at the beach, so we can stay at the beach
Hmm.
for the other 4 months, and then come back here right for spring.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of the dream. Whether I can afford that or not is another story. Hopefully my
Hmm.
kids make lots of money and they can just send me back home. But
Yeah.
everyone knows that's the plan, and I feel like that's a lot of immigrants' plans, is to always have that connection back home. Although
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've been trying to get my family to come to Canada for decades, and they just always want me to go there. They don't want to come here, and I don't understand why. Because I feel like they should come here, because I already know there. I know there already. You come here and experience something new. We have this argument all the time.
Yeah, I feel like you're speaking like you're taking the words from my mouth right now, because that's exactly where I've been. Like with my sisters, it's been so tough to get them out here. Like, I just feel like just come down here, but they're like, oh, it's so cold here. It's this, it's that. Why would I come? And, probably with the lifestyle, the complaints, and, we working hard and everything, they're like, nope, just don't, just enjoy Canada. When you're ready, come back home. So yes, you definitely took the word. It's been so tough getting them to,
Visit.
leave
Yeah.
Nigeria. Yeah, just to visit. Like, I don't want more, just visit, but they
And
have
come
their
in the
family back
summer.
home
The
too.
summers are so
Exactly.
beautiful here, and the mountains
Yeah.
and the lakes, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But stubborn. They're stubborn.
Yeah. They're definitely stubborn on that. Yeah.
All right, we're getting close to the end of the interview. I have just a few more questions for you. One of them is about, what what your recommendations would be. What would you be your insight now as a strong black woman coming from Nigeria, establishing her life with her husband here in Canada? What recommendation would you say to, perhaps anybody in West Africa or North Africa that is thinking about the same dream? Perhaps there's a young woman that's going to listen to this podcast, 18, 19 years old, just going into college in Nigeria, who's thinking about going to Canada. What would you say to them as a couple things to keep in mind of and to be ready for?
Um, there's the saying, the sky is just the starting point. And that's what I'll say. Like, we don't need to keep limiting ourselves to what people think about us, is what we believe about ourselves. And that has pretty much been my watchword to where I'm at right now. I've pushed myself, even, with the obstacles, with like the chit chat from different people, the limitations and the
Mhm.
words that can actually, get you depressed and stuff like that. But I just keep picking myself up, keep fighting. You know the end goal. You want to, have a better life. No one is going to have the better life for you. So you just have to pick yourself up, keep fighting till you get there. And I'm not there yet, but I'm happy with where I'm at. So you just keep fighting. That's all I'll say.
Awesome.
Just keep fighting.
And what about the value of a mentor. You spoke about how you had a mentor at SAIT and how much that helped you kind of resolve your plan and resolve your ambition. How important is it to have a mentor at some point, for someone young coming up in the industry, especially say a person of color or a young woman?
It's one of the most important things in life. I would say that's the foundation for where I'm at right now. Because, like you did pinpoint that, without the mentor I had, without the instructor, I don't think I'm going to be where I'm at today. And, I still, he still contacted me a few days ago and I still told him, oh, like, you're like still my best instructor, my best mentor, because whatever you said to me then, I still tell people about it. Like, mentorship is the most important thing, especially in this industry too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to keep learning. I have bosses too, that I look up to, who kind of carry me along, who tries to pass the message along to me. No man is an island, right?
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much you just need to keep having those good figures in place to be able to direct you in the right path. Because even my instructor was, my boss was one of the people who kept pushing me to go for my level 2. Like, Ruth, I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do better? Just go for your level 2. What do you want me to do better? Just go for your level 2. I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I'm just going to go for it, right? So I have bosses who are like mentors to me.
Mm-hmm.
I have instructors. So it is very important to, find that figure that would definitely help you set the foundation. And once the foundation is made, it can never be broken. For sure, it can be shaken. So yes, that's important.
Yeah, and I find that the internet is so helpful with that now. There was not much of a community for people from other places to connect. Because for example, the association in which I run, and what we do is a networking. We're really, at the end of the day, we're about networking, bringing people together, creating mentorship pathways, letting people meet each other, because that's going to be the biggest strength. And the association's been around for over 100 years. So, like, obviously someone decided a long time ago that this is important in this industry, and we know it. Once we're in it, we know it, that these people that we run into, for every, you could have 100 bad people that you run across and you forget them, but you have one good one and you remember them forever. You know what I mean? And that's the key, is you filter the bad out, because there's good people out there trying to do good things. And when I think about people back home, for people like us, they're not going to find a lot of those mentors back home, because it's not just, the industry's not set up the same way. So it's like, I always tell them, like, go on Instagram or, type it in. There's lots of groups now on social media where people are meeting each other, but having someone physical like you, Ruth, who's trying to be a mentor, I think is huge. It's huge. And it's very amendable.
That's good. Thanks for that.
All right.
Yeah, I did survive with a mentor, so I would love to definitely be a mentor to other people also.
Yeah, I had great mentors. I think about them all. I actually invited one of my mentors to a big conference that we had here in town, and it was in Regina, so not too many are in Regina very often. So I invited him and I introduced him. He was so embarrassed, but I was like, this old guy right here with the long hair and the ponytail, this old guy, he is one of the biggest reasons that I'm where I am today, because I was a tattooed, bad, dark kid that was, I thought no one would give me a chance, but he didn't care. He just taught me. He didn't even ask about anything about my personal life. He didn't care, and he ended up being one of my best friends, and he taught me so much. So, like, it's a huge change they can make in your life.
Definitely.
So for the last question, how do people get into weld inspection? Just to wrap it up, like, if people are listening, being like, specifically, if I want to become a weld inspector like this wonderful Ruth person on the interview, how do I do it? What do I do? How do I start that journey?
So I've basically, for myself, I did go to school. I did the work program just to be able to get my foot out there. And I don't regret doing that, because I was able to learn a lot in school that could, that prepared me for the industry. However, I've also had some people in the industry who kind of have like a mechanical engineering background, who just go straight to write like the CWB level 1 exam to challenge it and stuff like that. It works for, I have a couple of friends who has done that. But I think the difference between that is, the experience
You
you
have
get
more
in
experience.
school. Yeah, you have more experience in school. I could have probably opted for that, but I didn't, because I didn't want to be a novice in the industry, right? So I just I still learn every day, right? So yeah, there are different routes to it, like, you challenging the exam and going straight for it, or go to the school, which is like I went to SAIT, and I think they take the course at NAIT also, and go to the WET program. It's a 2-year program, very interesting. Never, you would never know the time is gone by,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the path I took. So yeah, those are like the 2 paths I know to becoming a welding inspector.
Awesome. And is there lots of work? Is there still lots of work? I feel like there's always. I see on my end the books that say that we're short, like all these inspectors across Canada. Have you had any trouble finding or keeping work?
Not really. Like I said, the limitation has to be with myself, my availability for a lot of things. But, for turnarounds and the likes of it, we know when it comes up, there's always something to do in the summer. There's always something to do in the fall. So definitely I haven't had, if it's more local, I would say yes, the shops are maybe pretty much occupied because, they have like the quota of QC or QA inspectors they would need in a shop. But, the opportunities out there in the field and BC, different places in Nova Scotia and the likes of it. So like there's a lot of opportunities for welding inspectors out there for sure.
Awesome. All right. Any shout outs you want to send to anybody? Any hellos or anybody you want to yell out to?
I'd say shout out to my mentor, yourself, and to my boss. He also knows himself. Thank you so much for being who you are, and to my amazing husband, who has always been like the push for me, has always made me keep challenging myself, even sometimes when I doubt, my strengths. I'm glad to have you guys in my life, and I'm happy to know that this men are the one actually, pushing me out there, motivating me. And thanks to my friends also. So thank you, Max, for having me. Thanks, Daniela.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Ruth. This has been a fantastic episode. I hope a lot of people learned a lot, and if they get the chance, I would recommend anyone to get on a plane and go visit Nigeria and West Africa. Beautiful country, wonderful people, and amazing food.
Oh yeah, definitely amazing food. That's very important. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. For all the people that have been following along with the episodes, thank you so much for being a part of the CWB Association podcast. We're working really hard right now on a couple big promotions. We're going to be doing Skills Canada. We're going to be in Quebec City for the whole week, recording over a dozen episodes in French and English for World Skills. That's going to be huge. Plus, we're really gearing up for FabTech Canada, CanWeld in Toronto. Like I said, there's lots of events happening with chapters across the country. I want to be in Calgary next weekend. I'm in Regina this weekend for an event. There's events coming up in Ottawa. There's events in Hamilton and Ontario. So there's lots of different, in Toronto, there's lots of different things happening. Check them out. Check out the Instagrams. Check out CWB Group online. We got all the information there. Become a member. It's free. Best way to do it. So until the next episode, take care of yourselves and stay tuned.
We hope you enjoyed the show.